Welcome everyone to episode 4 of the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Now, you may not be familiar with my guest today, at least not yet anyway, but I think this conversation is going to be very interesting. Now, a little background on how he and I first met. I first came across this guy about 4 to 5 years ago. My dad is a big golfer, and he was a member of this country club in Largo, Florida called the Bayou Club. He was a member there for many years, and even though I wasn't really a member, he would let me use his membership to work out at the gym they had there. So one day, I'm in the gym, and I bump into this kid who was around 15, 16, and to be honest, I forget what originally got us talking, but somehow music got its way into it, and I think he was listening to something, or I was playing something on the radio. I remember we got to talking about this one song. It was called Live to Win by Paul Stanley of Kiss. It was off of his solo record that he did a few years ago. Anyways, we got to talking, and I found out that he was a guitar player, and he was really into classic rock. And not only that, he went to the same high school that I went to, which is St. Petersburg Catholic High School. Now, fast forward to a few years later, and it happened to be a couple months ago. Marko and I, we were connected through Facebook, and about earlier this year, he contacts me out of the blue asking if I wanted to come over to his place and to jam for a bit. Maybe go over some music that he had been writing, or wasn't really sure what he wanted to do, but he knew he wanted to get together with me and jam and work on something. So I was like, yeah, man, totally. So next time I was in St. Pete, I ended up meeting up with Marko at his house. Now, I always get a little bit nervous when it comes to meeting with someone and just kind of jamming with them out of the blue, especially if you do it the way that I did and kind of went in there without any real solid ideas in my back pocket. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I knew he had something going on, but I didn't know what I was doing. But and I already knew Marko was a good guitarist because I had seen some videos and recordings that he had posted up on his Facebook, and I was really impressed. But I wasn't really sure what to expect. Now, even though Marko was a talented player, he had never been in a band before. So I wasn't really sure exactly what he was looking for at the time. He knew that I was busy with my band and that I didn't live in the same area that he did anymore. But what I ended up seeing in Marko was a guy who reminded me very much of myself, because I didn't really get into my first serious band until I was around 21, which is around his age. And I went to the same small private high school, and I had an intense love of a particular genre of music that no one else really understood. So I met up with Marko, jammed for a little bit, and it went great. And what I got out of it, I really saw a guy who had all the talent, all the drive, and just a great attitude. I mean, he's just a sweetheart of a guy. I knew he had the potential to do something. I knew he had the potential to sort of make his own mark in the local music scene, but I think he just didn't really know anybody, or just maybe needed the right foot in the door. And maybe that's why he called me. I'm sure we can elaborate on it later. But I knew that when it comes to bands, it's all about being in the right situation and finding the right people. And the fact that he was never in a band before, that had me curious. So I was thinking, like, okay, I know this guy definitely wants to do it, so I think maybe there's got to be someone I can introduce him to. Now, when I was talking to him, I know that he mentioned that he was really into like sort of the prog rock, category. He really wanted to get into progressive music. And when he said that, I immediately thought of a band from the Tampa Bay area that I had been friends with for many years. I'd played a bunch of shows with them. This is going on 5-6 years ago. The name of that band was Particle Effect. And the guys from Particle Effect had been, they had been lacking a permanent guitarist for a while. They had a couple guys come in and out, but really they hadn't really had anybody that stayed. And so once he said that, I kind of put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, all right, well, let me give him their information, and maybe something will develop out of that. So I ended up putting Marko into contact with the guys from Particle Effect, and I am proud to say that he has been a member of that band for several months now. He is fully into Particle Effect right now, and I think he even has a live show or two under his belt. So I'm definitely proud that I kind of helped make that happen and helped get him started. And from what I hear, everyone seems to be getting along great, and Particle Effect seems to be a little bit re-energized now that they've got some new blood. Now that Marko is in the band. So with all that being said, I want to officially introduce and welcome to the Phoenix Report a really great guy, a talented young up-and-comer from Particle Effect, Marko Bojkovic.
It's pronounced Bojkovic.
Bojkovic? Oh, man.
No, it's okay. People mispronounce it anyway, so I'm not too worried about it.
I'm sorry about that. I was like sounding it out phonetically. What's your nationality? Is that Serbian or?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the guys in my old band, Impatient Nation, he went by the name Matt Raspo, but his last name was Raspopovich. So he's
a family friend of mine.
Oh, get out! You know Matt?
Yep, I do.
Oh yeah. Matt's a great guy. He and I. Wow, small world. That's funny. I'll have to let him know that I met up with you. But
definitely.
Yeah.
His dad and my dad are like bros.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Me and Matt go back years. So we were in the nation together, and he's a good guy. So he's a character. So
yeah, he is.
So let's go back from the beginning, man. When did you start playing guitar? Was music always in the house, or I mean, what did you gravitate towards at first? What made you want to pick up the guitar?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, my dad was a guitar player, even though he mainly played the accordion. He played in two wedding bands up in Winnipeg called Shooters and Three-Way Street. I never saw him live. This was back before I was born, but based on what I heard, they sounded pretty good. Oh,
right on. Is your dad from Winnipeg originally?
No, he's originally from this place in Serbia called Smederevo. And so, as far as I know, he ended up moving to Canada because we've already had relatives over there. And I think it's just because his parents couldn't afford to live in the States, so they ended up immigrating to Canada.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, there are so many immigrants in Canada. I mean, you look at Geddy Lee's family, for example. I think he's Serbian.
No, that's Alex Lifeson.
Oh, really? Because Geddy has some sort of like long. His real last name is something I can't even pronounce. But
it's, I think it's pronounced Weinrib.
Oh, Weinrib. Oh, okay. So yeah.
He's Jewish, and
right.
Did you know his parents were Holocaust survivors?
I did know that. Yeah. I saw. I actually own Beyond the Lighted Stage. It was a really good thing. So, well done, my friend. You know your Rush trivia for sure. You got me beat on that. But
like my favorite band in the world.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it shows in your playing for sure. But
I really wish that you were there when Christian and I saw Rush with his friends.
Oh yeah. No, I wish I could have made it out to that. I've actually never seen Rush live in concert, and I've always wanted to, but I guess I've kind of waited too long because it seems like they're almost like wrapping it up, or at least not going to be touring as much as they used to. I mean, they're getting older. So, but let's get back to you for a second though. So your dad was a musician. He played guitar and accordion, and so. How old were you when you started like really wanting to play, or was it something you've always wanted to do?
Actually, I got into guitar when I was just 13. When I was little, I had no interest in music whatsoever, but my dad forced me to do piano anyway, and now I'm just so thankful for that, and I love him for that. Oh,
that's funny. I mean, it's crazy. I was 13 when I first started playing bass. Something about that age. I guess that's just when the switch happens, for a lot of guys.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's because little kids aren't ready to handle the loud noise. I certainly wasn't, actually.
Right. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. But yeah, I mean, and I know like when I was really little, like around 8 or 9, like I played cello because my mom and my sister played violin. So it's funny how stuff like that from the family tends to rub off on you, and and it tends to work out in the long run, even if you don't see it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So, around 13, you decide to pick up the guitar. Were there any was there anything you had in mind with it? Like in terms of like, was there any bands or any players in particular who really inspired you to do it?
Just a lot of rock artists I was listening to at the time, like on the 80s station that my old car had. It played stuff like Queen and Bryan Adams and stuff like that. But as far as influences go, I think my earliest influences are Queen, definitely, and Eric Clapton and Van Halen. If you want to talk about like high school is when I started getting all the influences.
That's it. It's funny how that works sometimes, and a lot of people tell me that I was born in the wrong decade, and you obviously being younger than me, I'm like, man, what makes a kid your age want to go back and dig through all those older artists? And was it, like you said, was it the 80s station? Like what was your exposure to that? Or do you remember like that moment where you said like, yeah, this is awesome, I want to listen to more of this?
Well, it was just stuff in my car, in my really old car, that my parents were listening to. And as far as I know, it was just like I don't even think it was a legit radio station. It just said like 80s hits on it or whatever.
You think
and it just played a bunch of 80s artists.
Do you think it was like Sirius XM or something like that?
It could have been. I don't think it was an FM stage though.
Yeah, it sounds like it might have been like a satellite radio kind of thing.
It was satellite radio. That's it.
Yeah, it was probably Sirius XM. So it's so yeah, I mean they have a lot of stuff on there, and it's crazy. Every now and then I'll like, when I had it, like I would tune on there and stuff, and I would find like not even stuff you'd hear on the regular like classic rock station. It would be like more even like obscure bands from that era, which is crazy. It's like what was old is new again. It's funny how that works sometimes.
That's just awesome. Like, I absolutely love that, and maybe that'll start the motto, out with the new, in with the old again. Hopefully.
Well, I've always said like, the business is cyclical, and I think it's tough for young bands to progress and to keep going farther if they don't know their history. I'm sorry, you have to know where you've been in order to know where you want to go, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, and it seems like there's hardly anyone around to significantly inspire those musicians just to look back in their history and get better. I mean, they might completely ignore Rush and Dream Theater and even King Crimson, which really sucks because Robert Fripp is like the king of guitars,
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely, I know that I myself need to get more versed into King Crimson. I'm not as familiar with their stuff, but again, it's one of those things. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I'm not as familiar with their stuff. But again, there's so much music that has come before, and it's like I think if you're a musician and you're kind of ignoring the old stuff, you're really doing yourself a disservice. I've always felt.
Oh, definitely.
I've always felt. So, yeah. So now going into St. Pete Catholic, what years were you in high school from?
From 2008 until 2012.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, obviously we wouldn't have been there at the same time. I graduated in 2003.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was definitely before your time. But going into something like St. Pete Catholic, which is a small private school, did you have a hard time, kind of like relating to, to like other kids who were musicians, or did you have a hard time like finding people that you wanted to start a band with, or was that a goal of yours at the time?
It was a goal of mine, but it seemed like nobody was interested in the kind of music that I wanted to play. I wanted to play in like a hard rock band at lightest and a heavy metal band at heaviest. So a couple of guys were. My friends Shane and Chris, they're good buddies of mine, and we ended up playing at Chris's birthday party back in 2010. So that's something. It's better than nothing.
That's cool. Yeah. I remember because like I had a few buddies, when I was in high school who I would jam with occasionally, and I played in like the jazz band and stuff like that, and marching band and stuff like that. But it was really tough to form like a complete band, because A, it was hard enough to find people who were into the same kind of things that I was, and B, it was even tougher to find people who were into that who were also experienced musicians or were serious about it, or whatever it was. So it's I don't know how it was when you were in school, but it always seemed like everyone was either into like hip hop or I mean, like the closest I could find would be like people who were into like punk rock and to like alternative stuff like that, which I liked, but for some reason like they weren't really down with some of the stuff that I was listening to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So was that the case when you were in school?
Oh yes, it was. That was definitely the case. Like hardly anybody was a metalhead.
Yeah.
And if they were into metal, they weren't into the same kind of metal that I was into. For example, a buddy of mine named Scott, he was into bands like Bullet for My Valentine and Job for a Cowboy, which I don't know how they call themselves metal.
Well, I mean, you know, it's funny. It's almost like, you know, they're, or at least what is considered metal now is so much heavier than what used to be considered quote unquote heavy metal back in the day, because it's all like the style of vocals, the screaming and everything. It's a completely different thing. So it's almost like trying to see who's heavier than thou, if that makes sense.
It does. But in my opinion, I think the screaming took a turn for the absolute worst. You know?
I agree, man. That I mean, as a singer, that's a pet peeve of mine. I'm not really a fan of that style. And I mean, not saying that some of those guys aren't talented. A lot of those guys are very talented, but it's just not my thing. And I think that kind of limits some of the appeal you have. I think people, for the most part, like singers who can sing.
Definitely, and nobody likes a screamer.
Right. Well, some people do. I wouldn't say nobody, but I mean, apparently there are a lot of people who do. But mm-hmm. I would argue that more people tend to go for the clean vocals than not. But yeah. So I mean, it sounds to me like you ran into a lot of the same issues that I did when I was in high school as well. And
they were exactly the same.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny how that works sometimes, and it's just, you know. But I mean, it sounds like you got to jam a little bit with a few buddies of yours. So that
a little bit. Actually, I was in St. Pete Catholic's praise band during my senior year.
Okay, yeah. I had done something like that for a little bit, and so that was, you know, it's always like, you know, you take a gig wherever you can get it. If you can play at Mass, if you can play at one of the games or whatever it is, it's just, I mean, for me, it was how I really kind of found my identity.
And I have to admit, it made me a whole lot better at guitar, you know?
Absolutely.
Did you find that it helped you improve as a musician at all?
Absolutely, man. Like, you know, when I played there, I really kind of cut my teeth, you know, especially on bass, just, you know, learning these different styles, learning jazz, learning how to improv, learning how to just basically how to jam, how to that
was us, definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, how to, like, you know, come up with stuff on the fly and react to changes and develop my ear and everything. And for me, like, you know, when I was in school, like I moved down here in like '99. I was in '99 through '03 was when I was in school, and it's like I didn't know anybody. I had moved here from a different state, so it's like playing in the jazz band and stuff like that. For me, that was like my way of kind of establishing my identity, because I wasn't really a sports guy. I'm like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to be known for. Then, yeah, I'm going to dive right into it.
That's what I was known for back at St. Pete Catholic.
Right. So it's crazy how our stories kind of mirror each other.
And St. Pete Catholic was actually the birthplace of my love for heavy metal, because that's where I discovered bands like Metallica and Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Slayer.
Yeah,
Megadeth, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's. Did you hear about them? How I guess I should say how did you hear about them, or did you hear about it through school, or just while you were in school you happened to discover them?
Well, when I was in 8th grade, I had a friend of mine tell me about Metallica, so I listened to the song "The Unforgiven" and I actually really liked it. And then one day when I was eating lunch with my family, my mom said to me that my love for Metallica reminds her of my Uncle Tony's love for Iron Maiden. And then I was like, what's Iron Maiden? So I looked them up later, and I became a fan of theirs.
Oh, yeah.
And I could go on for how I was introduced to other bands. Megadeth, I was introduced because Dave Mustaine used to play in Metallica, and, you know, James and Lars gave him the bus ticket and kicked him out.
That's right, yeah.
Judas Priest is probably the best way how I was introduced. I first heard about them on a South Park episode.
Really?
Yeah. It was the one in which Cartman wants to form a Christian rock band. So Stan, Kyle, and Kenny are opposed to the idea.
Yeah.
And they kick him out, and they have a bet.
Faith plus one.
Faith plus one, baby. Best Christian rock band of all time.
I know it. Going double myrrh. I forget. Did they mention Judas Priest in that episode? I'm trying to remember.
Yes, they do.
Nice.
They mentioned Metallica and Stevie Wonder, and Kenny suggested they download Judas Priest. And then that's when they get arrested for downloading music for free.
That's right. Moop.
Yep. And then I remember, like, the guy with the mustache, like the head of the...
Yeah, the cop.
Yeah, the cop. He said when they downloaded Judas Priest, it was hard times that they were looking at. I wonder if Rob Halford was not in the band yet by the time that episode aired. I think he was, actually.
Well, I think he got back with Priest like around 05 or 04 or something like that. So I don't know if they still had Ripper in the band at that point or if Rob was back. But
he got back in 03.
It's okay. So yeah, no, he was probably around by that episode, I would think. But it's that almost segues into something that I wanted to talk about earlier. It's funny that you bring that up because I hear a lot about how the industry is now and how a lot of that can be blamed, rightly or wrongly, on sort of the illegal downloading, or I guess the downloading music for free, and how that's just changed the game completely. And I've heard older artists say that it's killed the business, and that I've even heard people who I love and respect say that rock is dead because of it, and that the fans killed it. I mean, as a guy who's sort of grown up in the digital age, really, I mean, you, for all I know, you probably can't remember a time where that hasn't been the case. And do you think, I mean, how do you think, going forward, does that discourage you from wanting to be a musician, where you hear about how, even big rock stars aren't quite making the money that they used to?
It doesn't really discourage me, but it makes me sympathize for them. Not a lot of people go to their concerts, and nowadays concerts are the only way they can make their money,
Right, and I think especially for younger bands, it seems like record companies are just not taking chances on new talent, and so it just seems like there's much less opportunity for younger bands to kind of break through and make it and really cross over. And it's a shame because I see a lot of pop stars who seem to be doing pretty well. They seem to be making money. A lot of hip hop and country stars, they seem to be doing okay. I don't know why it's so different for rock music. I don't know why that is.
Could it be that most people find rock a little too heavy? I think that's part of it. I mean, obviously there's always, you're not going to please everybody. That's just the way it is. But based on what I've heard from most people who I've talked with, that seems to be the case. Like, I asked my mom why she's not really into metal, and then she just says it just sounds too heavy, and they don't even sing.
Right.
That's the best answer I get.
Right.
And my sister's not into metal for that same reason.
Are they into like any other kind of rock music, stuff that's a little bit lighter, or?
I could say so. I mean, my mom's really into Bon Jovi.
Okay, well there you go.
And my sister Katarina, who graduated from St. Pete Catholic in 2014, is starting to get into rock.
Okay, well, I mean, there you go. I think there's room for stuff like that to stuff that isn't necessarily the heaviest stuff, but stuff that can appeal to, I think that stuff is as important as the heavy, extreme, progressive stuff.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, all the heavy stuff is derived from the softer stuff, actually.
Well, I mean, you look at back. I saw a documentary a couple years ago about like the rise of the thrash movement in the 80s.
Yes.
How bands like Slayer and Metallica and Megadeth, they were really born out of that scene. A lot of that came as a reaction to how popular, the quote-unquote hair bands were at the time. And because they didn't like those bands at all, they're like, okay, well, we're going to be heavier than this. And that almost kind of motivated them to do their thing. It was sort of a rivalry there, but in a way it kind of brought out, and it's funny how like they're like sort of two sides of the same coin, if you think about it. And how stuff like that was able to motivate those underground bands to do their stuff, and it just kind of fed each other for quite a few years. And when the one scene died, the other did too. It's strange how that works sometimes.
So they were kind of symbiotic with each other, you'd say?
I would say so, because back in the early 90s, like when sort of the grunge thing came about, that sort of wiped out a lot of the old hair band scene. And
I've got a lot of metal bands too, but it just motivated Pantera to keep on going.
Right. I mean, Pantera was doing their thing, but for the most part, like the thrash scene, that was kind of fallen by the wayside as well. And maybe that's because times were changing, but it's just funny how those things tend to parallel each other. So maybe there was a symbiotic relationship there.
I could definitely see it.
So it's funny how that works. But now let's. I'm trying to remember. How old were you when you and I first met in that gym that one day?
I was only 15, and that was back in November of 2009.
Wow.
Because I remember the video game Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 being brand new. And I also remember us talking about the concerts that we went to that previous month.
Right.
You saw Metallica and Kiss, and I was at both those concerts too, but you didn't go see U2, and you weren't at Yngwie Malmsteen's clinic in Sam Ash.
Oh, that must have been something else.
Oh, it was. Yngwie was actually a really cool dude.
Was he really? I always hear that guy is like just incredibly full of himself.
I asked someone at Sam Ash about that, and he said that maybe Yngwie was a little nicer because he was getting paid more.
Well, that could be it, but I don't know. Everything I hear about that dude is that he's just really stuck on himself. But it is what it is. I mean, he's a talented dude. But
definitely,
that's crazy because I was trying to remember back when we first met. I forget how we even got on the topic of music. I think you were one of us was listening to Paul Stanley at the time, and we were like,
I was.
Yes.
When I did my set of 100 leg raises without stopping.
Man, you were living to win, man. You were into it.
You were legit leg raises.
Yeah.
The ones that are much more intense.
Yeah, you were in the zone.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious. Like my old band Zebrageist. I told you about them before. Like I remember talking to Russ, the singer from that, and be like, "Hey man, check out the latest from Paul Stanley from Kiss." And he just he was just like laughing his butt off when I played him "Live to Win" because he thought that was just like the funniest motivational song. And he's like, oh,
it was.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's so. I think he thought it was a little cheesy, but he thought it was like, oh, it's so good.
It's still an awesome song. Speaking of which, did you ever see that South Park episode of World of Warcraft?
I did.
World of Warcraft.
That was the first time I had heard that song. I was like, is that Paul? That's the new Paul Stanley single.
Me too. Oh, that's how I first heard it too.
It's too funny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. But yeah, so you and I we connected back then. We got to talking about music, and we just kind of exchanged our info there, and we were Facebook friends for a while. But now I think it was earlier this year when you contacted me about coming and jamming with you. Do you remember?
That was over Christmas break in 2014.
That's right. Yeah. So it was probably last December.
Yeah, last December.
Yeah, I'm sure I was home for a weekend, visiting my folks, and
you were.
So yeah, you have a much better memory than I do.
It's not that good.
I already feel old talking to you, so it's.
You don't have to.
Thank you, buddy. But yeah, no, because I'm trying to remember what brought that on. Because I think you contacted me originally about.
Yeah, I contacted you at first.
No, I was trying to think back, what you had in mind, because I know you wanted to show me some stuff that you were working on, or maybe get some feedback, and because you already knew that that I lived over in Orlando and that I had all other stuff going. So it's I was like, well, I can't really. I know you're trying to start a band, but I can't really commit to something like that right now, just because of where I am. But yeah, I still want to get together. I
wasn't asking to start a band with you. I was asking maybe if you knew a few people who would want to start a band with me. And then that's when you told me about Craigslist and Particle Effect.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember coming to your house, and I was just like,
oh, you want the Craigslist update?
There's an update for Craigslist? What happened with that?
Nobody replied.
Really?
Nobody needs to now.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of irrelevant because you're in Particle Effect now, but it's trust me, it's probably for the best because I mean,
definitely.
you never know who you're going to run into on Craigslist. Let me tell you, there are a lot of crazy people out there.
Oh yeah, Craigslist kind of scares me in that sense.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you as far as that goes, but yeah, I mean, but like I remember coming to your house and it was like, and obviously back home with your mom and dad and in the Bayou Club, and I was like, wow, this is a really nice, gigantic house. You
live in a new one now.
You guys moved into a new place?
Yeah, that we were building.
Wow,
it's even better than the older house.
Oh yeah,
trust me.
What was the old one not big enough?
Nope.
Wow,
not even close.
Good for you, man.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
But I mean, that goes to my theory. I mean, like it doesn't matter where you come from or where you're born into. I mean, rock and roll, it doesn't matter if you're young or old, rich or poor. It's,
one big happy family.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are or anything like that. At least I don't think, at least it shouldn't be that way. And
it's not.
And I mean, I've always felt that sense of inclusion, even though let's be honest, some metalheads can be a little bit militant in what they like and what they don't like. But I mean, I think for the most part, guys like us kind of always looked at it that way as being a more inclusive thing.
When you talk about metal bands being militant, are you talking about trolling on a website like YouTube saying, "Oh, this band sucks, blah blah blah," that kind of stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. That the trolling thing is a huge thing, and it's not limited to metal bands, by the way. I mean, there's probably someone like that. I mean, look, there's someone like that in every genre, every walk of life, whatever. I think, that's just one of those things. People are behind their keyboard, they're anonymous, so they'll say stuff that, that they would never say to somebody's face, or a lot of times they'll just say stuff to just rile people up and get attention, which I think is just beyond lame. And
definitely, but it's not going away anytime soon, so
yeah.
That's rather unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's just how people are, as far as like, I mean, that's just the world we live in. So, I mean, it does get it gets a little frustrating, just as a fan to like know that there are people out there. But, I think when you want to do something, when you want to be a performer and, you're taking that chance, but ultimately you're doing it because you believe in it.
Mm-hmm. And the old saying, haters gonna hate.
You know it.
Every band has a hater.
In the words of Taylor Swift.
Did I just quote Taylor Swift?
Yes, you did, and there's nothing wrong with that. She's an adorable young woman.
I feel bad now.
Just shake it off.
There, I shook it off. I'm good again.
See what I did there? Yeah, but so we got together, and once you mentioned that you wanted to do something more progressive, mm-hmm. It's just sort of like a light bulb went off in my head, because Particle Effect, I've known Christian and Bill for a long time, and they hadn't had a permanent guitar player for a really long time. So I definitely gave you and Christian each other's numbers. And so what ended up happening with that? Because I wasn't there. So, I mean, did you call him? Or?
I tried to call him, but he didn't answer his phone. So I ended up chatting with him on Facebook about it. And I was just so eager to be in a band. Like, he could see how eager I was. And then a few weeks later, I went to his house, and he really liked my attitude. And we just had fun jamming together and getting to know each other and talking about our influences.
Definitely, man. I mean, because as soon as you kind of described to me what you were looking for, and certainly I had seen sort of the kind of player that you've become over the years, and I'm like, yeah, man, I got to get him, in with Christian, because you guys are very much cut from the same cloth, and I'm like, even though those guys are a little bit older than you, I know there's definitely some commonality there.
I don't care if they're older than me. I mean, look at Ozzy Osbourne. He had Zakk Wylde for years, and Zakk is like, hang on, I know this. What? 67 minus 48 is 19. So
yeah, I mean,
so Ozzy was 19 years older than Zakk Wylde, and Christian is, he's 18 years older than me, and Bill is 19 years older than I am. So yeah, age doesn't matter.
Definitely. I mean, and that's a big spread there. But also, the thing about those guys is that they're still young enough to really have the energy to go for it, and they're not a bunch of old geezers. They're just in their 30s, and they're still a really good band, and so I think you've definitely thrown some new blood into that band. So it sounds like things are going pretty well with Particle Effect, and
I think things are going really well. I mean, I'm loving being in Particle Effect. I'm having so much fun.
Very cool, man. And now, have you written some new stuff with them?
Yes and no. Christian and Bill were working on a song 3 years ago called January, and they have it rewritten up a little. And one night when we were jamming, Bill came up with a random beat, and I came up with a random tapping riff. And Christian really liked the way it sounded. And so we thought maybe we could develop it into a song. I want to call it Maple Leaf World and write about Canada.
There you go.
Did you know Christian and Bill have both been there?
I didn't know that. I've actually been there a couple times. Well, just about 2 or 3 years ago, my fiance at the time, who's now my lovely bride, we went up there to Niagara Falls for a couple days, and then we just drove into Toronto. And
Niagara Falls is amazing.
Yeah, oh yeah, so much fun up there, and
so much better than it was years and years ago.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. So I mean, we had done that, and my sister lives in Rochester, New York, so she's actually relatively close to the border. And I think when I was 12, I also went up there at one point, saw the Hockey Hall of Fame and Maple Leaf Gardens and stuff like that. So that was a really cool city. But yeah, I mean, I've never been out to like Winnipeg or anything like that.
I was born in Winnipeg.
Okay,
actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because I didn't know if you were born down here or
no. I was born up there in Winnipeg somehow. I don't know why. My dad just picked Winnipeg for some reason.
Gotcha. Well, now, did you mainly grow up here in Florida or?
I guess you could say that. I moved down here to Florida back on December 15th, 2001. And I remember that date because I remember living in Pennsylvania my last few days there, talking with my dad on the phone. And he said that my mom, my sister Katerina, and I were going to move down there on December 14th. And so we began to move down there. And the first place where I ever lived in Florida was actually Palm Harbor. And when I go to Christian's house, I pass the apartment where I live in, and it brings back a lot of memories.
No doubt, yeah. I have an aunt and uncle who live in Palm Harbor. But so you lived in Pennsylvania before that?
Yeah, in Pittsburgh, because my dad was able to work in a prison there as a forensic psychiatrist.
Oh, okay. Is that what your dad does? Is he a psychiatrist?
Yes, he is. I don't think he's doing forensics anymore, though.
Okay, very interesting. So how old were you when you moved down here? Probably like 8, 9, something.
When I moved down to Florida, I was 7, and then when I moved to Pennsylvania, I was 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 4.
Okay.
Because I remember having my 4th birthday party up in Winnipeg with that big jumping tube thing or whatever, and having music from Barney and Friends playing.
Hey, there you go.
I don't remember what song it was.
Who knows? I'm not as
Could have been Mr. Boppity Bob.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, for me, it was like Sesame Street. I think I was a little bit before the Barney era, but that was a little bit.
I was Sesame Street too.
Right on. Yeah. God, who knows? Who would have thought we'd be talking about freaking Barney and Sesame Street on this podcast? You never know what's going to happen on these things. That's what I love about it.
Yep. Now you're doing a children's television program podcast. Congratulations,
dude! Don't get me started about how the Ninja Turtles they put out their album and tour back in like 1990 when I was like 6 years old, and it was like, man, that was pretty rocking for me back in the day.
Did you go to their concert?
No, I wanted to though.
I wasn't born when it happened, but I watched these 2 internet celebrities called the Angry Video Game Nerd and the Nostalgia Critic review the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shells tour. You saw that?
I did see that, and I was like, they were just ripping on it constantly. I'm like, hey, dude. Well, I was 6 years old and I loved it at the time. So, what am I, some kind of idiot? Like, come on, dude, relax.
I don't think they were talking about little kids, though. I think they're saying whoever's older and finds it amusing.
Right. I mean, again, those guys. I've seen some of the stuff that those guys have done, and they're just like. Again, they're just like very like militant, angry nerds, and they play it up, for comedy. So it's like you can't really take it too seriously.
Yeah, I actually emailed the Angry Video Game Nerd if I could do a song for his movie, but he never replied back. And if he did, then I would be completely surprised because he doesn't really respond to fan mail. But since he didn't, then I'm not surprised, and I ended up not getting featured in his movie. I heard it kind of stank anyway, which really sucks.
Did a movie? I didn't hear about that.
Just the Angry Video Game Nerd did, not the Nostalgic Critic. He might have been involved with it. I'm not exactly sure.
That's weird. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure they probably get hit up like all the time about stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. They definitely do.
Yeah, there you go. But getting back to the particle effect thing, so how many shows have you played with them so far?
Just one, and it was at the Orpheum with Guerrilla Music.
Yeah. No, I told you all about Guerrilla Music, and
I'm shaking with fear right now just talking about them.
I mean, you know, I definitely want to put your mind at ease because not all clubs are like that, and not all clubs are going to make you do the pay-to-play thing, and
good.
So, you know, just, you know, don't necessarily let them discourage you from wanting to go out and play shows because
it's not discouraging me. I think we're just going to avoid pay-to-play shows and Battle of the Band kind of promoters. I think we're completely done with that.
That's good because you know, bands I've been in have fallen into the trap before, and it's just it's not good. Well, anyway, so yeah, you have played the one show with them, and I guess it sounds like you're working on some new stuff. Is it weird to like come into a band that's already been around for a few years and you know they already have a lot of different songs there?
I wouldn't say it's weird. I mean, it's very welcoming, and I'm happy to write some stuff for these songs. And Christian always says that I end up making these songs a whole lot better, which means a lot to me.
That's definitely high praise coming from Christian. That guy is just, I mean, he's you know, a really great friend of mine and just one of the most talented musicians I've ever seen. Like, he does things on the bass guitar that I haven't even thought of. Like, I have, you know, it was insane. Like, I remember seeing him years ago, back in like 2005. And this is before I had even met him. It was at like a open mic thing in South Tampa at this place called Yeoman's Pub. And
is that still around?
I think it is. It's somewhere up in like Hyde Park. But I was with my band at the time, and I remember him coming in and doing something on like one of his multiple stringed basses and just tearing it up. And for some reason, when I like actually met him years later, I was like, dude, you were the guy from the open mic at Yeoman's. And so it was funny. It's like I kind of seen him before I even really knew him personally. So it's funny how that works out, and you're definitely in good hands with him because he's just, I mean, you know, he's one of the nicest guys, you know, in the scene that I've ever met, and so he's a good person to learn from and to collaborate with.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Did you see his baby yet?
Little Lorenzo. I've seen pictures. I haven't met him in person yet, but
I met him in person.
Oh, cool.
I love that little pumpkin.
Oh.
I miss him. I bought him a little Sonic the Hedgehog plush.
Nice.
It's from the new Sonic, though, Sonic Boom. I tried to find old Sonic, but the Toys R Us I went to just didn't have it, which kind of sus because I feel that if I'm going to introduce a little kid to Sonic, I got to show him old Sonic.
There you go, man. You got Uncle Marko looking out for him. I love it.
Yep.
Good stuff, man. But so I mean, now you're with Particle Effect. You're definitely playing, you know, the progressive stuff that you've always wanted to do. You know, I mean, who's to say what's going to happen in the future? Do you have like an ultimate like goal or like or a particular like dream that you're chasing as a musician?
Not really. I mean, just being in a band and getting us on iTunes is my only dream. But I plan to get us on iTunes after Bill finishes mixing what I have recorded and maybe getting us internet radio play.
There you go. I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, I'll be honest with a lot of Particle stuff. It's probably not something that you would expect to hear on, say, 98 Rock.
Oh no, I don't think we're trying to appeal for that station.
No,
I think
it's not very radio friendly. But I mean, you obviously know that going into it.
Yeah,
and you have those realistic expectations of it, and so I mean, I know that you have the right kind of attitude where it's not going to frustrate you if not everybody gets it. but you're doing what makes you happy, and that's what's ultimately important as a musician, as an artist. And it sounds like you're doing it, man. So I'm really proud of you for getting with these guys, and I'm very happy that it seems to be working out.
And I'm so thankful for you telling me about them, and they're thankful for telling you telling them about me.
Definitely. Well, I mean, again, I'm always happy to help out people, to help out good people who I meet, along the way, and people who are friends of mine. And you guys are all my friends, so I'm definitely glad to see something come out of it. And hopefully we'll be seeing much more of you with Particle Effect, in the future. Have there been any plans for for some new shows, or are you guys just working on new stuff now? Or
Christian wants to play a small gig, but I think we're just gonna wait until our manager Phil calls us, and we'll just see what happens. And we're gonna get some new stuff down for sure.
Oh, cool. And yeah, I mean, I can understand a little downtime. Obviously, Christian just became a father for the first time, so there's that, and obviously everybody has other stuff going on in their life. And you're in school right now?
Yeah, I'm in my I'm going to be in my senior year of college.
Oh,
I'm currently going to USF St. Pete, and I'm still pursuing the pre-med career. I'm actually studying for the MCAT as we speak.
Really? Yeah. I was going to ask you if you were still going for pre-med, and that's that is awesome. I mean, obviously having been around for as long as I have, I mean, just the main advice that I always give to guys your age or guys who are just starting out is have a backup plan. Have something to fall back on in case it doesn't work out. Whether it's going to school or learning a skill, or even becoming a music teacher if you like. I mean, just have something figured out, just so you're not. I mean, and some guys I know are just completely into it and into their band and everything, and I respect them for doing that. It's not something that I would ever do, and without
me neither.
Without having that foundation,
Yeah, I don't think my parents would be very happy with me if I give up pre-med for music.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it sounds like, I mean, they're definitely right to encourage you to do that, and you're pursuing your career, and so I mean, I think and so I think you're doing the right thing.
Thanks a lot, Jack.
Absolutely.
And the best part of it is, no matter where I go for med school, I can still commit to Particle Effect because Christian has a FaceTime. So all I pretty much need to remain as a member is to just have my iPhone or my computer and any one of my guitars and my Marshall stack. Oh, and my pedal too. Can't forget the pedal.
That's cool. I mean, because I was always curious about that. Because are you guys able to use that stuff to sort of play together in real time?
Christian and I are going to try it tomorrow.
Cool. I mean, that's always something I've been interested in terms of collaborating with guys who I don't live nearby. And I was always wondering, well, is the technology there, or is it? But I'm sure it. If it's not now, it certainly will be one day.
The practicing problem is solved. Now, the real problem is recording. I don't know what we're going to do about that. I could always just record on Logic Pro X, but it's not going to sound legit. It's going to sound like it was done on a computer, It's I've listened to music that I made on GarageBand and Logic Pro X, and I like a lot of what I've made, but I know that if I used what Bill uses to record, then it would have sounded like I actually legitimately recorded it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, sounds like you've got college going on. That's doing great. The band is, seems to be on the right track.
It is.
What are some of the besides music? What are some of your other interests? Some other things that you might be passionate about that I might not know about, or that
martial arts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a black belt in karate.
Oh yeah, me too.
But you're a black belt in Taekwondo, I thought. And
oh yeah,
karate, Taekwondo are different. Karate's Japanese and Taekwondo is Korean.
Ah, very good. I mean, it's funny. I'm guilty of using those terms interchangeably, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this. But it's almost like
you're not in trouble for me.
It's almost like how you refer to like all soda as Coke,
Yep.
It's just, but yeah, no, there's definitely a difference between Taekwondo being Korean and karate being Japanese. And
Well, I think like in terms of training, the difference is karate is more about conditioning your strength, and Taekwondo is more about your agility and your ability to kick high.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've trained both, and I almost got to black belt in Taekwondo, but then I found where I do judo now. And so I quit Taekwondo for judo, and I got my yellow belt in judo over Christmas break.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know you're a big UFC fan. I didn't know if that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if that was like sort of the inspiration to try that other stuff, or.
I don't really know, because when I wanted to try judo back in 2011, 2012, I wasn't really keen on UFC. So the judo interest just showed up from doing it, because one of the students that trained at my karate place was a third-degree black belt in judo, and he wanted to teach judo, so I did that with him for a bit. But now I found a judo dojo in St. Pete Judo, and I just love it there.
Yeah, St. Pete Judo, I think...
That's also St. Pete Taekwondo.
That is, and I know those people very well, because that's where I trained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is crazy to me how small our world is sometimes.
Yeah.
So, because I know that St. Pete Judo, they had like shared a building with Taekwondo for years.
They did.
Master Johnny Clark and Russell Artiel is running it over there. Those guys are just dear friends of mine. And I had trained there for a long time and got my black belt there. And
what degree are you?
Just first. I kind of stopped a few years ago. When I moved away, I just it's not that I lost interest in it. It was kind of tough for me just out of loyalty to go somewhere else and train. So I mean, I don't know. It's something that I'm always going to be able to do, and hopefully I'll pick it back up one day a little bit more than I have. But I do miss it though.
Yeah, and hey, I'd love to train with you.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it would. Speaking of which, did you watch the UFC fight last weekend?
No, I didn't. I'll be honest.
Oh my god, it was absolutely amazing. Two of the fights ended with flying knees. One of the fights ended because the champion, Robbie Lawler, broke his opponent, Rory McDonald's nose. And this Irish fighter named Conor McGregor beat Chad Mendes and got all the Irish fans screaming their heads off. One of the commentators said it was like a rock concert when Conor McGregor stepped into that octagon.
Oh, nice. Well, as a fellow Irishman, I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I hadn't. I've heard of Conor McGregor a little bit, just from commercials and stuff. But even though I don't necessarily follow the product as much, have you heard about CM Punk coming over from the WWE?
Oh yeah, I heard about that back in December before I wrote my finals for my semester of fall 2014. And so that could be interesting. I just hope that he gets the same pay-per-view buy rates that Brock Lesnar did for the UFC.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's going to bring a lot of eyes on the product. I'm a big wrestling fan, as you know, so I'm definitely curious to see how that'll. I'm sure no matter how he does, he's going to bring in a lot of business for UFC. And I don't think he's necessarily trying to be, the best at it. I think it's just one of those things that's always something he's wanted to do, and he's able to do it, and so I think that's what it's all about for him, more than even winning. But yeah, so I think before we wrap up here, is there anything in particular that you want to promote or want to plug, or maybe tell people where they can find Particle Effect?
I don't really know. I mean, like I said, we're just going to wait till Phil calls us, and then maybe I'll announce on Facebook where we're going to perform.
Gotcha. And where can we find Particle Effect on Facebook and all the social media?
Particle Effect's on Facebook. It's on Reverb Nation. It's on Twitter. And for all you old school social media users out there, they have a MySpace still.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I remember their MySpace. No, I guess would it be like facebook.com/particle effect or
Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to check that right now.
Definitely, those are the kind of things you want to know when you're out there promoting the band, bro.
I'm new to this stuff, okay?
Hey, it's all good, man. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to help you out.
I appreciate your help.
Anytime, man.
Okay, here we go. It's facebook.com/particle effect.
There you go. Nice and simple. And so I mean, keep posted on, definitely keep paying attention to Particle Effect on Facebook and all their social media so you can know where they are performing next. So yeah, man. So that's I'm just wanted to say again, man, I'm super proud of you. It seems like you're heading in the right direction, and just keep up the good work. And
I will. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's an absolute honor, and I don't think I've ever had a bigger smile on my face than I do right now just being on this podcast.
Oh man, that's so cool. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for saying that. Anytime you want to come back on, any questions that you have for me, you know where to reach me, man.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. Well, there you go, guys. Marko Bojkovic. See, I got his name right. Thank you, Marko, for coming on the podcast. Just a great, talented young guy who's, like I said, he definitely reminds me a lot of myself because I think his, it seems like his life experience kind of mirrors mine a little bit in a few ways. So there are a lot of similarities there. And he's in school right now. He's got a good career ahead of him, both in and outside of music. So hopefully, he just keeps making the right decisions and keeps learning and growing as he continues on. And he's 21 years old. He's got a lot of time to figure it out. So I want to wish Marko the best of luck. I can't wait till Particle Effect gets up and running again. They're a great band. Definitely check them out on Facebook. As far as some upcoming events, my next show with Vertebreaker will be Saturday, August 1st at Landfill Saloon in Melbourne, Florida. Now, it was formerly called Club XS, but it was closed for a while, and it recently reopened with a new name, new management, and from what I understand, there will be some things in the club that are a lot different than what it used to be. So I can't wait to see that. The show will be called Metal Revelations, and it will feature two bands who we are very good friends with, two bands who we go back with. Both these bands were on tour for the summer, and now they're back home, Vilify and Breathing Theory. Breathing Theory will be releasing their new album called Uprise, Part 1. So we definitely want to get as many people there as possible. This is going to be a really, really big local show. You guys will not want to miss it, I'm telling you. We're definitely going to pack this place. There's going to be a lot of great lighting, a lot of great sound, and you have three incredible bands from Melbourne. It's going to be a great night. A lot of people there. You won't want to miss it. Unfortunately, the show is 21 and over only. And, unfortunately for you younger fans, our next show is 21 and up as well. That will be Friday, August 21st at the Shady Oaks Lounge in Palm Bay, which is just the next town over from Melbourne. We will be there for Heavy Metal Harvest 7. We will be there with Who Was I and Slick Wicked. This will be sponsored by Metal Zone Radio, Blind Anxiety Entertainment, and produced by Chris Sherry. The show is 21 and up, but it will be free for those of you who are old enough to go. So definitely come out to that show. It should be a great time. This is our first time playing the Shady Oaks Lounge, so we hope to see you there. All right, that's it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. I want to thank Marko Bojkovic again for being such a great guest. Now, next episode, I will have David Marfit, the bass player for Breathing Theory and the former lead singer for Path to Prevail. He's a guy I've known for a few years, definitely a really interesting guy, a fixture on the Brevard County local music scene. This is going to be a great interview. Dave has a lot of great stuff to talk about, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you follow me at JackXConnor on Twitter. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/JackConnorMusic. Also, feel free to check out the band at vertebreaker.net. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com or tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you next time.